the wrong man to mock. The soft hum of evening violins drifted through the grand hall of Elysian Terrace, one of the most expensive restaurants in the city. Waiters in black waistcoats moved swiftly, balancing trays of food worth more than most. People's weekly earnings. Golden chandeliers flickered overhead, reflecting in tall crystal glasses filled with aged wine. It was a place where money whispered louder than words, and appearances meant everything. At the far end, a man walked in slowly. His dark suit was neat, but not flashy. His hair slightly messy, like he hadn't looked in a mirror before stepping out. He wore no watch, no ring, no designer label that could be spotted from across the room. And yet, he moved like someone who knew exactly where he was going. No hesitation, no arrogance, just calm. The hostess at the entrance gave him a polite, but distant smile. "Reservation?" she asked, scanning the list, her eyes flicking briefly to his worn shoes. "No," the man said softly, his voice gentle but firm. Behind her, a waiter leaned over and whispered something. She hesitated. Then she looked back at the man, her smile now tighter. "I'm sorry, sir. We're fully booked tonight." The man didn't argue. He simply nodded and turned toward the bar instead, choosing a seat in the corner. From behind the counter, a younger waiter named Derek noticed him. Derek had worked there for only 3 months but believed himself to be an expert at spotting the kind of people who didn't belong. To him, the man looked like someone who had wandered into the wrong place. Perhaps he was here to meet someone rich, or maybe just curious. But definitely not a guest who could afford dinner here. "Excuse me," Derek said loudly, walking over. "This bar is reserved for guests with dinner tables. You'll need to leave if you're not dining." The man looked up slowly, meeting Derek's eyes. There was no anger, no challenge, just a strange kind of stillness. "I'll wait here for a friend," he said. Derek scoffed. "Sir, people don't just walk in here looking like that. We have a standard. Please don't make me call security." Across the room, another waiter paused, recognizing the man but saying nothing. He watched, lips pressed in a tight line. Clearly uncomfortable, the man stood. "If it makes you feel better, I'll wait outside." He didn't argue, didn't raise his voice. He simply nodded again and walked toward the door. The moment the glass doors closed behind him, Derek smirked and turned to a nearby guest. "Every week someone tries to fake it," he said, laughing. Outside, the man stood still for a moment, looking up at the stars. He took out his phone and made a quiet call. "They're not ready yet," he said. "Let's give them one more chance." That night, Derek finished his shift, feeling proud. He thought he had kept the restaurant's reputation clean. He had no idea what was coming next. The following evening, the restaurant was buzzing even more than usual. Whispers ran through the staff. Someone important was visiting. Someone above even the usual list of celebrities and billionaires. But no name had been given. Just an instruction from the owner's assistant. Make everything perfect. Every waiter polished their shoes twice. The floor sparkled. The chef was on edge, yelling instructions to the kitchen with double the usual pressure. Derek, meanwhile, stood tall, brushing invisible dust from his jacket. This, he thought, might be his moment. If he impressed tonight, maybe he'd finally be noticed by management. Maybe he'd get promoted. He kept glancing at the door, waiting for the arrival of someone in gold jewelry, maybe a famous singer or a royal family member. And then the door opened. It was the same man from the night before. His clothes were slightly different, still simple, still humble. But this time the hostess didn't ask for a reservation. She stepped aside immediately. Behind her, the manager himself walked up and bowed slightly. "Sir," he said, "your table is ready." Derek blinked in confusion. The man walked in, with the same calm pace as before. He was led to the center of the room, where the best table stood, under the grandest chandelier. Guests looked over, some nodding in recognition, others too confused to speak. Derek turned to his colleague. "What's going on? Who is he?" His colleague leaned in and whispered something that made Derek's face go pale. The man's name was Keanu. Keanu Reeves. And he wasn't just a guest. He owned the place. The restaurant, the building, the very floor they were standing on. And Derek had thrown him out the night before. As Keanu sat down, he looked directly at Derek, who froze, in place. But again, there was no anger in Keanu's eyes, only disappointment. Like someone who had seen this pattern far too many times, Keanu waved to the manager and whispered something in his ear. The manager nodded quickly and walked over to Derek. "Follow me," he said. Derek followed in silence, feeling every step like a heavy weight. They reached a private lounge at the back. Inside, Keanu was waiting. He motioned for Derek to sit. The room was quiet. "Do you know why I asked for you?" Keanu said softly. Derek swallowed hard. Because I was rude to you last night." Keanu nodded. "Yes, but it's not just about me. It's about everyone else you might treat that way in the future." Derek lowered his eyes. "I thought you were just someone who didn't belong." Keanu leaned back. "And what made you think that?" Derek paused. "Your shoes, your clothes, the fact you didn't have a reservation." Keanu nodded again. "Do you know who taught me the most about respect?" Derek shook his head. "A man who used to clean hotel bathrooms," Keanu said. "He told me, never judge a guest by what they wear. Some of the richest people don't want to be seen, and some of the poorest carry themselves with more grace than kings." Derek felt his chest tighten. "I'm not here to punish you," Keanu said quietly. "I'm here to ask you something." Derek looked up. "Will you learn from this?" Derek didn't know what to say. He nodded slowly, his voice breaking. "Yes, I will." Keanu stood and offered a hand. "Then let's start fresh." But just as they shook hands, a knock came at the door. The manager stepped in, looking pale. "Sir, we have a problem in the main dining room. One of the guests just insulted another customer for being dressed too plainly. It's becoming a scene." Keanu's eyes narrowed slightly. He turned to Derek. "Let's see what you do now." And with that, they both walked back toward the main hall, where something unexpected was waiting, something that would test Derek's lesson faster than he imagined. Will Derek now stand up against the very arrogance he once showed? Or will he freeze when it matters most? The mirror momentas Keanu and Derek stepped back into the golden-lit hall. The atmosphere had changed. The smooth music from the string quartet had slowed, almost awkward now. Voices buzzed low with tension. Somewhere between the silver cutlery and fine linen, dignity had been bruised. The staff stood frozen near table 7, their eyes darting toward a confrontation in progress. At the heart of it sat a woman draped in elegance. Diamonds on her neck, designer shoes crossed with precision. Across from her sat an older man with weathered hands, his coat clean but visibly aged, his posture proud yet humble. He had come in quietly, asked for the simplest meal on the menu, and even offered to sit by the corner. The hostess, respecting the new order from Keanu's office, had seated him without hesitation. It was the woman who had taken issue with it. "This place used to have standards," she scoffed, just loud enough for other tables to hear. "What is he doing here? Is this a soup kitchen now?" The old man didn't respond. He kept his eyes on the menu, though his hands trembled slightly. Dignity, when wounded, bleeds invisibly. Keanu's steps slowed as he observed the scene unfold. His expression didn't change, but Derek felt something shift. Not in the air, but inside himself. This was the test, the very moment Keanu had mentioned. Not in private, not safe behind closed doors, but here, where it counted, where eyes watched, where choosing kindness meant risking pride. Derek stepped forward. He didn't look at Keanu, didn't wait for a signal. He simply walked to the woman's table and stood straight. His voice, when it came, was clear and calm. unlike the one he'd used the night before. "Ma'am," he said, "I need to ask you to stop." She turned sharply. "Excuse me?" "This restaurant serves people," Derek continued, not blinking. "Not outfits, not wallets. If someone is treated poorly in this place, it should never be because of how they look. And it won't happen again. Not while I'm standing here." There was a moment of silence. Long and thin, like the pause before a storm. Then she laughed, sharp and mocking. "Do you even know who I am?" Derek's jaw tensed slightly. "No, ma'am, but I know who he is, and he's welcome here." The woman stood abruptly, her chair screeching against the marble. Without a word, she stormed out, her heels clicking like distant thunder. The room stayed quiet, even after the doors swung closed behind her. The old man looked up slowly. "Thank you, young man," he said in a voice warm with grace. Derek only nodded, his heart still pounding. He felt eyes on him from every direction, admiration mixed with curiosity. Whispers followed him as he stepped back. Keanu remained near the bar, arms crossed. When Derek approached, he didn't speak right away. He simply placed a hand on Derek's shoulder. "Good," he said after a long pause. "Not perfect, but good." Derek exhaled deeply, only now realizing how tightly he had been holding his breath. "I was scared." "You should be," Keanu said softly. "Fear means you understand the weight of the moment. What matters is what you do with it." The next hour passed in a calm haze. Dinner was served, the music picked up again, and the tension melted into soft conversations and clinking glasses. But something unspoken had shifted. Staff who had always walked with silent obedience now held their heads a little higher. The regular guests whispered less about outfits and more about character. And Derek, he didn't feel like just a waiter anymore. After service ended, Keanu sat with the restaurant's management team. They gathered in the back lounge, paperwork and ledgers spread before them. Derek was invited to join, though he sat off to the side, uncertain of his place. "We've built this place to be known for luxury," one executive said. "But maybe it's time we're known for something more." Keanu nodded. "Kindness isn't weakness. It's the highest form of strength. The question is, can we lead with it?" Someone suggested a campaign, a new policy, open invitations for staff training on compassion. Derek watched in awe as decisions were made that would change the soul of the restaurant. Not just a shift in rules, but in values. As the meeting ended, Keanu turned to Derek. "Walk with me." They stepped out onto the empty balcony, where city lights shimmered like distant stars. "You handled yourself well," Keanu said. "I nearly froze," Derek admitted. "But you didn't," Keanu replied. "You saw yourself, the version from last night, and you made a choice." Derek looked at him. "Do you really think people can change?" Keanu leaned on the railing. "I don't just think it. I've lived it. When I was younger, I was judged. More for my name than my words. I've been rich, and I've been broke. And I've learned that the only thing harder than changing yourself is forgiving yourself after." The words settled deep in Derek's chest. "I want to do more," Derek said quietly. "Then do it," Keanu replied. "You don't need permission, just purpose." As they stood in silence, the city below blinked and moved like a heartbeat. And somewhere, in a dark part of town, the woman who had stormed out earlier sat alone in her car, scrolling through headlines on her phone. She stopped when she saw her own face captured beside the words, "Guest shames elderly man, staff," and owner respond with unexpected grace. Her lips parted, stunned, because now the story was bigger than her words, and it had only just begun. Will she return with revenge or regret? And how will Derek navigate what comes next? Shadows return wearing smiles. 3 days passed. In those 72 hours, the restaurant changed in quiet but powerful ways. New posters went up in the staff rooms. Simple reminders that read, "Dignity is not worn, it's given." Team meetings began not with rules but with reflections. The staff shared stories, moments they had once dismissed customers unfairly, moments they had seen kindness overlooked. They didn't do this to shame each other. They did it to build something stronger. Derek arrived early each morning. He no longer treated it like a job. It had become a purpose. He greeted every guest with the same warm smile, whether they wore a business suit or a faded jacket. Sometimes he paused to refill water before it was asked for. Sometimes he noticed the smallest flicker of sadness in a guest's eyes and made sure they left lighter than they came in. On the third night near closing, the soft bell above the door chimed. Derek turned toward the sound and felt something twist in his chest. It was her, the woman in diamonds. But tonight the shine was dimmer. She didn't wear the glittering necklace. Her makeup was lighter, almost absent. She looked human. No entourage followed her. She walked in alone, clutching a small purse like a shield. Every waiter on the floor paused. Someone whispered her name and a busboy dropped a fork. But Derek didn't freeze. He stepped forward. "Good evening," he said gently. "Would you like a table?" Her eyes met his. They were not sharp like before. They were unsure, almost pleading. "Yes," she whispered, "if you'll allow it." He nodded once and led her to a corner booth, the very same where the older man had sat that night. Maybe it was coincidence, or maybe something deeper had drawn her to it. She sat slowly, folding her hands. "You remember me?" she said after a long pause. "I do. I was awful." Derek didn't respond, not with words. He poured her water with the same care he'd show any guest. Then, placing the menu before her, he simply said, "Take your time." She stared at the menu but didn't open it. Her fingers rested on its cover, unmoving. "People always told me I had to look a certain way, speak a certain way," she said, not quite to Derek, not quite to herself. "I thought it made me powerful. Turns out it just made me small." He stood in respectful silence. She looked up again. "That man, the one I insulted, do you know if he'll be back?" "He's booked a table for Sunday," Derek replied. "Same seat." She nodded, a tear slipping down one cheek. "Then maybe I'll come too, and ask for his forgiveness." There was a moment of heavy quiet between them. "Thank you for how you handled it," she added. Derek gave a small smile. "We're all learning." From the far end of the restaurant, Keanu had been watching. Not spying, not judging, just watching. He leaned against a column, arms folded, a soft light in his eyes. He had a gift for recognizing turning points. And this was one. Later that night, as the last of the guests left and chairs were lifted onto tables, Keanu approached Derek again. The dining room now smelled faintly of citrus and clean linen. Only a few pendant lights remained lit, casting soft shadows. "I saw how you spoke to her," Keanu said. "She surprised me," Derek admitted. "People often do," Keanu replied. "Especially when they're carrying pain. Arrogance is sometimes just armor over old wounds." "You think she meant it?" Derek asked. "I think she's beginning to." They stood in silence again, the way two people do when words are no longer needed to share understanding. "We're having a private dinner next week," Keanu said after a moment. "It's for the team, not the managers, the floor staff, the kitchen crew. I want you to host it." Derek's eyebrows lifted. "Me?" Keanu nodded. "I want them to hear your story, the real one, not just what happened here, where you came from, why you changed." Derek hesitated. He hadn't told many people about the life he lived before this job. The debts, the missed chances, the way people once looked at him and assumed he would never rise above a minimum wage life. "I'm not used to being listened to," Derek said. "Then it's time to start," Keanu replied. "You've earned it." Just then, the cleaning crew entered from the back, and the two men parted. But Keanu didn't leave. Not yet. He stepped out onto the terrace, letting the cool night wind run through his fingers. And he wasn't alone for long, because a phone buzzed in his pocket. He answered it. On the other end was a voice from the past. Someone he hadn't spoken to in years. Someone who now claimed they had a right to part of the restaurant. "You forgot your roots, Keanu," the voice said, "and I'm coming to remind you." Keanu's eyes narrowed, and for the first time in days, the calm cracked ever so slightly. Who is the voice from Keanu's past, and what threat does it bring? Will Derek's newfound path be shaken by what's coming? The man who knew too much. 2 nights later, the stars above Los Angeles hung behind a thin layer of mist, softening their glow. But something in the air felt sharp, like a memory that returned not to be remembered, but to be reckoned with. Inside, the Elysian terrace, the night had begun smoothly. Laughter filled the air like light rain on warm glass. Plates clinked, glasses caught candlelight, and every corner of the dining room pulsed with quiet joy. Derek was at his best, confident, gracious, attentive. Yet beneath the comfort of the evening, he felt a low hum rising, like tension waiting. For a cue, Keanu hadn't shown up yet, and that was unusual. Not for his absence, but for the silence that came with it. He always gave notice, always texted if running late. But tonight, there was nothing. And then the front door opened. A man entered, dressed sharply but too perfectly, like someone trying to wear wealth rather than live in it. He moved with entitlement, but scanned the room as if measuring it, calculating. Something invisible. Derek approached, ever professional. "Welcome, sir. May I help you?" The man's eyes met his, and something about the gaze made Derek pause. There was a flicker of familiarity, like seeing someone from a dream he hadn't meant to remember. "I'm looking for Keanu," the man said. "He's not here yet," Derek replied, keeping his tone neutral. "May I offer you a seat while—" "You wait?" The man smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Oh, I won't be staying long. I just came to drop something off." He reached into his coat and pulled out a folded piece of paper. Crisp, deliberate. "Give this to him," he said, placing it gently into Derek's hand. "Tell him his past has a way of showing up, especially when it's been forgotten." And without another word, the man turned and left. Derek stood still, the paper burning in his palm, though it held no heat. He walked to the back hallway where the kitchen met the staff area, unfolded the note, and read it slowly. "I built the first stones of Elysian with you. I want what's mine. I want it now." Beneath the words was a name, Silas Dre. The name meant nothing to Derek, but when Keanu finally arrived, it meant everything. Keanu entered the private lounge almost an hour late, his face tight with unreadable thoughts. Derek approached immediately, handed him the note without speaking. Keanu read it, and for a moment, the world around him seemed to still. "So he's back," he whispered, more to himself than to anyone else. Derek waited. Finally, Keanu spoke. "Long before this place existed, I was part of a smaller venture. We wanted to build a place that gave people peace, not just food, not just luxury, but a sense of dignity." "What happened?" Derek asked softly. Keanu sat down slowly. "Silas wanted money, fame. He didn't care who sat at the tables as long as they could pay for it. I disagreed. I bought him out when the vision became too different to share, but he never let go of the grudge." Derek frowned. "Can he really do anything now?" Keanu looked up. "Not legally, but people like Silas don't use courts. They use shame, sabotage, stories." That night, Derek noticed something else shift in Keanu. Not fear, but a weight he hadn't carried in public before. Like a man who had buried a ghost, only to hear its footsteps again. The next morning, articles began to appear, not in major headlines, but in quiet corners of the internet. Anonymous forums, posts that whispered, "The real owner of Elysian Terrace steps forward, and luxury built on betrayal." Most were ignored, but some caught attention, enough to cause whispers in the dining room the next evening. "A guest," asked a hostess. "Is it true your owner stole this place?" Another said, "I heard this isn't even his restaurant." Derek saw the staff's unease rise like smoke in a room with no windows. And for the first time since the transformation of the restaurant began, doubt entered like an uninvited guest. Keanu called for a staff meeting that night after closing. The Diari gathered in the lounge, tired but alert, curious but worried. Keanu stood before them. No notes, no suit, no grand speech. "Some of you may have heard things," he began, "and I want you to hear the truth from me." He told them about Silas, about the early days, about how visions broke and partnerships fell apart. He didn't paint himself as a victim. He told it plainly, honestly, without defense. And then he said something no one expected. Silas is demanding a seat at the table again, and legally he has none. But reputation isn't built on law, it's built on trust. If you choose to walk away because you no longer believe in what we stand for, I'll understand. But if you stay, we fight this with honesty, with unity, not silence. The room was quiet. Then Derek stepped forward. "He came here," Derek said. "I saw his face. He didn't come with proof. He came with threats. And that tells me he doesn't have power. He's just hoping we forget who we are." Others nodded. Someone clapped. Another waiter stood and said, "We believe you, Keanu." And for the first time in days, the weight lifted from Keanu's eyes. But just as the meeting ended, one of the assistant managers checked their phone and gasped, "Sir, you need to see this." They turned the screen toward Keanu. And there, it was, a video, grainy but clear enough, from years ago. Keanu and Silas shaking hands, voices raised, words exchanged, and at the end, Silas shouting, "This place was my idea and you'll regret taking it." The video cut off there, but the comments underneath were already boiling. So it's true. This changes everything. Keanu lied. And, in the shadows of the online world, the storm had just begun. With public doubt growing and Silas pushing from behind the curtain, can Keanu and Derek hold the soul of the restaurant together? Or will everything fall apart before the truth can be heard? The storm at the door days turned into nights, and the warmth inside Elysian Terrace began to shift. It wasn't the food, nor the service. Both remained flawless. But something subtle had crept in, an invisible coldness. Guests still smiled, but their eyes lingered longer on Keanu. Staff still worked hard, but they whispered in corners. The video hadn't broken the restaurant, but it had cracked something deep inside its walls. Trust. Keanu knew this wasn't just about Silas. It wasn't even about business anymore. This was about narrative, about who owned the story, and for the first time in years, he felt that story slipping from his hands. Outside, cameras began to appear. Not the flashing, aggressive kind. Not yet. But the quiet, watching kind. Bloggers. Small-time reporters, each hungry for a fresh angle, a whispered scandal. A-list actor steals from business partner. Luxury built on lies. Some even tried to enter as guests, hiding their microphones behind menus, pretending to care about the wine list when they only wanted quotes. One morning, Keanu arrived early, before even the prep cooks had clocked in. He stood alone in the kitchen, running his fingers along the cold marble counter, remembering when the space was just bare concrete, remembering the nights he slept here during construction, curled up in a sleeping bag with nothing but dreams and bruised knuckles. Derek found him there, silent in thought. "You don't have to prove anything," Derek said softly. Keanu turned, his eyes tired. "But I do, not to the world, to the people here, to to you." Derek leaned against the wall. "Then tell your story before he tells it louder." Keanu thought about those words all day. That night, as the restaurant reached its calmest hour, when dessert plates glowed beneath warm candlelight and the string quartet played a slow, haunting melody, Keanu stood. He didn't raise his voice, didn't clear his throat. He simply walked to the center of the dining room and placed a single chair there. Then he sat. Guests turned, curious. Waiters paused. The music softened and faded. Keanu looked at everyone, strangers and friends, and began. "This restaurant was born from pain," he said. "Not scandal, not wealth, not fame. Pain." The room hushed completely. "Years ago, I lost someone very close to me. She used to say, 'Keanu, someday, you'll build something where people walk in carrying sadness and walk out feeling light.' For years, I didn't know what that meant. Then I met Silas. He explained it all, how they dreamed together, argued together, and eventually disagreed so deeply that one had to walk away. How Keanu offered a settlement, signed the papers, moved on. How Silas never did. I didn't steal this place," Keanu continued. "I saved it from becoming something ugly. I don't ask you to take my word for it. I ask you to feel what this place gives you when you walk in. If it gives you peace, then the truth is already here." The room remained frozen. Some guests blinked away tears. Others simply nodded. But not everyone was ready to listen. Because at that very moment, the front doors opened, and Silas himself walked in. This time, he didn't hide behind messages or old videos. He came dressed in success. Tailored suit, polished shoes, the smirk of a man who thought he was already winning. "Well," Silas said loudly, clapping slowly, "what a beautiful little speech." Keanu stood slowly. "You shouldn't be here." Silas shrugged. "Oh, I think I should. See, I brought something." He held up a thick folder. The original blueprints. The design sketches. "My name is on them. The documents before you bought me out. And I've just filed a motion to reclaim intellectual ownership. Guess what happens if it holds? This entire restaurant might be shut down until it's sorted out in court." The room gasped. Servers froze. A dessert tray clattered too. The floor in the back, but Derek stepped forward. "You'd really burn down everything, just to take something you abandoned," he said quietly. Silas turned. "And who are you? Another waiter clinging to a paycheck?" Derek didn't answer with words. Instead, he walked to a drawer near the bar, pulled out an old photo frame, and held it up. It showed a much younger Keanu, and Silas, standing beside the first wooden beam that was ever nailed into the restaurant's foundation. But in the background, barely visible, was something else. A signature wall where every early crew member wrote their name. And next to Silas's bold letters were a dozen smaller names, including one woman's name, May, the woman Keanu had once spoken of, the one he lost. "This place isn't built on blueprints," Derek said, his voice steady. "It's built on people, on memory, on purpose. Try proving that in court." Silas's smirk faltered for just a second. Long enough, Keanu turned to him, calm as ever. "You can file your motions, post your videos, spread your doubt. But you can't erase what we've built here, and you can't scare me into silence." For the first time, Silas didn't respond. He turned slowly and walked out, not in triumph, but in quiet retreat. The power had shifted, not legally, but publicly. And that mattered more. The room didn't cheer. They didn't need to. They just stayed quiet, respectful, connected. And in that silence, something healed. But outside, as Silas disappeared into the darkness, another figure waited near the corner of the street. A young man with a camera and a smile far too eager. "Did you get it?" the cameraman asked. Silas nodded. "Everything. Now let's see how honest the world really wants its heroes to be." As Silas leaks the footage and the legal storm builds, Will Keanu lose public faith? Or will something unexpected turn the tide? And can Derek rise higher when everything begins to fall apart again? The final plate, the following morning, clouds rolled over the city, heavy and low, as if the sky itself had been watching everything and had now come to weep. Rain tapped against windows in soft, slow patterns. Across phones, tablets, and screens, the newest storm wasn't weather. It was a video. A heavily edited montage hit the internet just after dawn. Footage of Keanu's speech in the restaurant, cut, and spliced with Silas's shouting from years ago. Old images were paired with misleading captions. Music swelled beneath fake narrations. Titles screamed, "Actor admits to stealing idea." The fall of Keanu Reeves begins. On social media, outrage roared fast and loud. People who had never set foot inside Elysian Terrace now had opinions. Podcasts questioned his legacy. Influencers reposted without fact-checking. And in the eye of the storm stood Keanu, quiet, unchanged, yet staring into a world that was suddenly eager to tear him down. But inside Elysian Terrace, the story was different. Staff showed up early, not because they had to, because they chose to. Chefs arrived before sunrise, prepping ingredients by hand. Servers lined napkins, glasses, and candles with double care. No one said much. They didn't need to. Loyalty had taken root beneath the marble floors and gold chandeliers. And loyalty doesn't shout. It simply shows up. Derek walked in carrying a notebook. Inside it were handwritten testimonials from regular guests. Letters, thank you notes, even drawings from children who once ate there with their families. He placed it in the middle of the front desk for anyone to read. "If the world wants proof," he said, "let's show them the real kind." Keanu arrived later than usual. His face held a quiet fatigue, but his eyes were steady. He didn't mention the video. He didn't need to. The damage had already begun. And yet, something else had begun too. Something deeper. He gathered the staff in the private lounge. "I can't stop people from believing lies," he said softly. "But I can give them something stronger to believe in. I want you all to decide. If you want to keep your jobs, we'll find a way. But if you want to step away, I will understand." The room stayed silent. Then Derek stood. "You taught us something that Silas never could," he said. "You didn't just build a restaurant. You built a reason to come back, and no video can erase that." One by one, the staff nodded. One by one, they stayed. That night, the restaurant opened with fewer guests. Some had cancelled out of fear. Others just didn't want to be associated with controversy. But those who came in? They came with purpose. They didn't scroll their phones. They didn't whisper rumors. They sat down, ordered their meals, and looked the staff in the eye with quiet respect. Then something happened that no one expected. Woman stood up from table 4. It was the same woman who had once insulted the elderly man, the woman who had returned weeks ago in silence and shame. She walked to the middle of the dining room and cleared her throat. "My name is Elena," she said, "and the first time I came here, I embarrassed myself. I thought money gave me the right to judge someone. But that night changed me, not because I was corrected, but because I was forgiven." The room paused. She continued, her voice trembling. "I came back here to apologize to the man I hurt. And tonight, I also want to say this. If we turn our backs on a place because of edited lies, then maybe we've lost more than just the truth. We've lost our ability to believe in people." "Oh, say." Quiet round of applause followed. Not loud, not forced, just honest. Then a young man at another table stood. "This was the first place I took my mother after she finished chemotherapy," he said. "Keanu didn't know us, but he came to our table, sat with us, and made her laugh for the first time in months." A chef stepped from the kitchen next. "When my son was sick, he paid for his surgery. Never told anyone, never asked for anything back." And then it was Derek's turn. He didn't speak from the center. He just spoke from where he stood. "I was nobody," he said. "I judged him once, threw him out thinking I was protecting this place. But he gave me another chance, and he taught me what respect really means. Now I get to teach that every day." By the end of the night, a guest live-streamed the moment on social media. Within hours, the internet saw something raw. No music, no cuts, no headlines, just people standing for something quietly beautiful. The next morning, the fake video lost traction. Even major outlets retracted their speculations. Silas tried to push again, but now his voice felt hollow, desperate. The public had seen something rare. Truth, not as a statement, but as a place you could walk into, and sit, and feel. Days later, Keanu received a letter. No return address, just a folded card. Inside was a handwritten message. "I tried to ruin you because I was empty, but you filled people's hearts while mine stayed cold. I'll leave you alone now. You've already won. In the only way that matters." Signed, as Keanu didn't share the letter, he simply placed it in the same drawer where he kept the first sketch of the restaurant, one drawn by May on the back of a napkin. That night, the staff gathered one last time in the private lounge. This time not for a crisis, but for celebration. Glasses were raised, not in fancy toasts, but in gratitude. "To the second chances we didn't ask for," Derek said, "and the stories we live, not the ones they post." Keanu smiled, a tired smile, but a full one. And as the rain finally cleared, stars returned to the sky, bright and honest, just like the hearts inside the restaurant they almost lost. But never did. Even in a world filled with noise, the quiet power of truth, kindness, and second chances can still light the darkest room.